The red sun of Proxima Centauri cast long shadows across the mining colony's main square. Lisa Miller yawned and stretched in her chair at the communications center. Her shift was almost over, and she looked forward to getting some rest. The colony had been her home for 3 years now. 3,000 people lived and worked on this distant world. The pride of humanity's push to the stars. Lisa glanced at her screens out of habit. Her eyes narrowed. Something wasn't right. Strange. Energy readings appeared at the edge of their sensor range. She had never seen patterns like these before. "Hey, Ben, come look at this," she called to her coworker. Ben Garcia walked over, coffee mug in hand. "What's up? These readings. They don't match anything in our database." Ben leaned closer, his casual expression fading. "Call Alan, now." Lisa's fingers flew across her console, opening a direct line to Colony Director Alan Wright. "Sir, Communications Center here. We're picking up unknown objects in orbit." Alan's voice came through, tense but controlled. "How many? What size?" "At least 5 large masses, bigger than our supply ships. They're not responding to hails." Alarms suddenly blared throughout the colony. Lisa looked back at her screens and felt her blood freeze. The objects were moving down toward the surface, fast. "Everyone to shelter stations." Alan's voice boomed through the colony-wide system. "This is not a drill." Lisa stood up, but Ben grabbed her arm. "Look," he whispered Dot through the large observation window. They could see them now. Black ships, shaped like arrowheads, cutting through the thin atmosphere. They absorbed light rather than reflected it. No markings, no visible engines, just pure darkness against the red sky. The first explosion rocked the communications building. Lisa was thrown to the floor, ears ringing from the blast. Emergency lights flickered on as the main power failed. "We need to get to the bunker." Ben shouted, helping her up. They ran through corridors filled with panicked colonists. Parents carried crying children. Workers from the outer mines streamed in, covered in dust. Everyone moved toward the central shelter built into the rocky ground beneath the colony. Another explosion, closer this time. Part of the ceiling collapsed behind them. Lisa looked back to see 3 people trapped under the debris. She turned to help, but security officers were already there, digging through the rubble. "Keep moving." A guard shouted at her. "We need everyone in the shelter." In the command center below ground, Alan Wright was trying to coordinate a response. His face was streaked with blood from a cut on his forehead. "What's the status on the defense turrets?" he demanded. A young officer shook his head. "Destroyed in the first wave, sir. They never even fired a shot." "The emergency beacon?" "Active." "Sir, sending on all frequencies?" Alan nodded grimly. "What about the other colonies? Any contact?" Lisa took her station at the communications array. Her hands trembled as she tried to establish connections with the other human settlements. One by one, she tried each colony frequency. The results were the same everywhere. "Sir," she said, her voice breaking. "New Eden Frontier Station, Armstrong Base. They're all under attack. Same pattern. No warnings, no demands." Alan closed his eyes briefly. "Get me Earth Command." The long-range transmission took several minutes to establish. When the connection finally came through, the face of Admiral Paula Jenkins appeared on screen. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Right? Is that you?" "What's your situation?" "Critical," Alan replied. "Unknown hostiles, massive casualties. No communication attempts from them." "Just destruction," the Admiral nodded, unsurprised. "Same. At all colonies. We're looking at a coordinated attack across every human settlement outside Sol. We've lost contact with most already." "Orders, ma'am?" "Survive, right? Get as many people as you can into shelters. Help is coming, but it will take time." The transmission cut off as another explosion shook the bunker, 7,000 light-years away. Earth was in chaos. Emergency. Sessions of the United Nations Security Council convened as military forces worldwide went to high alert. News of the attacks spread despite government attempts to prevent panic. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility known only as Site 7, a team of scientists monitored a strange artifact. recovered from Antarctic ice decades earlier. The crystal structure was larger than a bus and defied all attempts at analysis. Classified as non-terrestrial in origin, it had remained inert since its discovery. Until now. Dr. William Carter stared in disbelief at the readings. The artifact, nicknamed the Seed by the research team, was emitting energy patterns never seen before. Its crystalline surface, previously dull gray, now pulsed with inner light. "It's responding to the attacks," he said to his colleague. "Somehow, it knows." Dr. Samantha Green adjusted her glasses, checking and rechecking the data. "That's impossible. There's no way it could receive information from that distance without some form of technology we can detect." "And yet here we are," William replied. His tablet beeped with an incoming message. His face paled as he read it. "What is it?" Samantha asked. "Orders from above?" "They're implementing Project Lazarus. We need to prepare the artifact for transport." Samantha gasped, "But we have no idea what will happen if we move it while it's active." William looked at the glowing crystal, fear and wonder mixing in his expression. "I don't think we have a choice anymore." As they watched, tiny cracks appeared across the artifact's surface. Light spilled through these fractures, bright as the sun. "It's not breaking," William whispered. "It's hatching." Across the world, seismic monitors began registering impossible readings. Movement deep within the Earth's crust, far deeper than any natural phenomenon should occur. Something ancient was stirring. Awakened by signals from beyond the stars, humanity had always believed they were alone in the universe until they reached the nearby stars. They had been wrong twice over. Not only were there hostile forces among the stars, but something had been sleeping beneath their feet all along, something that was now waking up. In the colony on Proxima Centauri b, Lisa Miller huddled with other survivors as the alien ships continued their systematic destruction above. None of them knew that help was coming not from Earth's military forces, but from guardians set in place long before humans had even evolved. The dragons of Earth were waking from their ancient slumber. 3 days passed since the first attacks on the human colonies. Earth's military rushed to prepare for what everyone feared would be a losing battle. Reports from surviving colonists painted a grim picture. The alien ships, now identified as belonging to a species calling themselves the Vrakther, possessed technology far beyond human capabilities. General Kate Bishop stood in the Pentagon's command center, surrounded by screens showing defense preparations around the globe. Warships were being repositioned, old missile silos reactivated, and civilian populations moved to underground shelters where possible. "What's our timeline?" she asked her senior advisor. Colonel Steve Adams checked his tablet. "If they maintain their current pace after finishing with the colonies, we estimate first contact with Earth forces in approximately 72 hours. Kate nodded grimly. "And our chances?" Steve hesitated. "Based on colony reports, minimal. Their shields absorb our strongest weapons. Their hulls are made of materials we can't even identify. So we're looking at a fighting retreat at best." Kate stared at the global map. "Have the civilian evacuation plans been distributed?" "Yes, ma'am. Though where we would evacuate to remains." "Unclear." Before Kate could respond, a junior officer rushed into the command center. "General, you need to see this. Now." The screen switched to live footage from Nevada. A small town called Pine Ridge was experiencing what initially appeared to be an earthquake. Parents grabbed children from a soccer field as the ground buckled and swelled, but this was no earthquake. The earth split open and something massive emerged from below. Scales that shimmered like oil on water. A head larger than a bus with eyes that glowed like molten gold. Wings unfurled, blocking out the sun for those below. "My God," Kate whispered. "Is that what I think it is?" The creature rose fully from the ground, its body stretching over 100 feet long. It was a dragon. Exactly like those from ancient myths, yet somehow more real, more solid than any fantasy illustration. "It's not just Nevada," Steve said, his voice shaking as he swiped through incoming reports. Similar emergences in Montana, the Ural Mountains, central China, the Australian outback, the Amazon basin. The screens filled with footage from around the world. Dragons of every description breaking through the Earth's crust. Some scaled like reptiles, others covered in feathers or fur, some with 4 legs, others with 2. All massive, all powerful, all undeniably real. "Get me Dr. Carter from Site 7, Kate ordered. "Now." At Site 7, William Carter and Samantha Green watched in awe as the seed completed its transformation. The crystalline structure had opened like a flower, revealing a pulsing core of energy at its center. "It's a beacon," William said, checking readings from their instruments. "It's broadcasting on frequencies we've never recorded before." "And the dragons are responding to it," Samantha added. "Look at their movement patterns. They're all heading toward major population centers, but they're not attacking. It's almost like they're taking defensive positions," William finished. The secure line beeped. William answered, finding himself face to face with General Bishop. "Doctor, please tell me you have some insight into what's happening," she said without preamble. "The artifact is active, General. It appears to be communicating with these creatures. Based on preliminary analysis, we believe there's some kind of ancient defense system." "Defense against what?" Kate demanded. "Against the Vrakther," Samantha cut in. "These creatures, these dragons, they were left here, dormant until needed. Left by whom?" William and Samantha exchanged glances. "We don't know yet, but we've discovered something else. The artifact has been changing us too. Certain humans appear to be developing a psychic connection with specific dragons." In Pine Ridge, Nevada, Joe Harris stood rooted to the spot as others fled around him. His 9-year-old daughter Emma clutched his hand, but neither of them ran. The massive dragon that had emerged from beneath the soccer field was looking directly at them. Joe felt something strange in his mind. Not words exactly, but concepts, images, emotions. The dragon was trying to communicate with him. "Dad," Emma whispered. "I can hear it in my head." "Me too, honey," Joe replied. Squeezing her hand, the dragon lowered its massive head, nostrils flaring as it sniffed them. Then it projected a series of images into their minds: stars, ships, battle, protection, ancient packs. "It says it's here to protect us," Emma said, somehow understanding the complex stream of information better than her father. "It says others are coming to hurt us, and it was left here long ago to stop them." Military vehicles surrounded the area, soldiers training weapons on the dragon. Joe raised his hands. "Don't shoot," he yelled. "It's not hostile. It's trying to talk to us." A helicopter landed nearby, and a woman in a lab coat rushed out. Carrying what looked like a fragment of crystal, Dr. Samantha Green approached slowly, holding the shard from the seed before her like an offering, the dragon's eyes fixed on the crystal, and it made a rumbling sound that vibrated through the ground. Samantha gasped as information flooded her mind. "Yes," she said aloud, responding to the unspoken communication. "They have returned. And yes, we remember our oath." She turned to the military commander. "Tell General Bishop that I've established communication. The dragons are guardians, left here by a race called the Progenitors. The Vrakther are their ancient enemies." "What does it want from us?" the commander asked. "Cooperation," Samantha replied. "The Guardians need human partners. They can't fight this war alone." Across the world, similar scenes played out. Certain humans discovered they carried genetic markers that allowed them to communicate with specific dragons. They called themselves speakers, forming a crucial link between humanity and their ancient protectors. In the Pentagon, General Bishop received reports of dragon emergences from over 300 locations worldwide. Each one had positioned itself near major cities or military installations. None had shown any aggression toward humans. "How long until we can establish proper communication protocols with these creatures?" she asked her staff. Dr. Green reports that it's not a matter of technology, an aide replied. "The dragons bond telepathically with compatible humans. We need to find more speakers." Kate looked at the global map, now dotted with dragon emergence sites. "And what about the Vrakther? Any change in their approach vector?" "No, ma'am." Still. On course for Earth, estimated arrival in 68 hours. Kate nodded grimly. Then we have 68 hours to figure out how to work with these dragons. God help us all. In Nevada, Joe Harris watched as his daughter Emma sat cross-legged. Before the massive guardian, their minds linked in silent communication. The dragon was sharing its knowledge, preparing them for what was to come. The guardian had a name, one that couldn't be pronounced by human tongues, but that Emma translated as Sunfire. And through Sunfire, they began to learn the truth about Earth's hidden history and humanity's place in a war spanning millions of years across countless stars. Frank Rivera never considered himself special in any way. At 35, he worked as an accountant in Chicago, lived in a small apartment, and spent weekends watching sports. His life was ordinary until the morning he felt an unexplainable pull toward Lake Michigan. He stood at the shoreline among a growing crowd as the water began to churn and bubble. Police tried to push people back, but Frank could not move. Something was calling to him specifically. The lake surface broke as an enormous shape rose from the depths. Water cascaded off emerald scales that shimmered in the morning light. A dragon with a serpentine body and elegant fins along its spine emerged, its eyes scanning the crowd until settling on Frank. "It's looking at me," Frank whispered to himself. The dragon moved closer to shore, ignoring the police and their useless warnings to stop. In Frank's mind, images and feelings appeared that were not his own. He understood somehow that this creature had been sleeping beneath Lake Michigan for thousands of years, waiting for this moment. "My name is Frank," he said, stepping forward. Despite the shouts from officers, the dragon lowered its massive head. In Frank's mind, he heard a response that wasn't quite words but conveyed clear meaning. "I am Deep Water, guardian of this region." More information flowed into Frank's consciousness. The dragons were not from Earth originally. They had been created by the progenitors, an ancient race who had seeded life across countless worlds in the galaxy. The dragons were guardians, left behind to protect developing worlds from the Vrakther. "Why me?" Frank asked aloud. "Why Ken? I hear you when others can't." The answer came as images of DNA strands twisting and changing. Some humans carried dormant genetic markers, placed there long ago by the progenitors. These humans were meant to be companions and pilots to the Guardians once they awakened. Frank was one of these humans, descendant of those who had once served. Alongside the Guardians in ancient times, similar connections were forming around the world. In Beijing, Nurse Linda Shun bonded with a dragon that emerged from the mountains. In Cairo, teacher Hassan Ali communicated with a guardian that rose from the desert sands. In Rio de Janeiro, student Maria Oliveira connected with a feathered serpent that appeared from the jungle. At the Pentagon, these reports created both hope and confusion. General Kate Bishop assembled a team of scientists, military strategists, and newly identified dragon speakers to understand what they were facing. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Kate said, addressing the gathered speakers who had been quickly transported to Washington. "These dragons claim Earth as a sanctuary world, protected by these guardians for millions of years?" Frank nodded. "Deepwater showed me visions of Earth's past. The progenitors visited our world long before humans evolved. They left the guardians in hibernation, programmed to awaken if the Vrakther ever threatened this region of space." "And the Vrakther?" Kate asked. "What exactly are they?" Emma Harris, the young girl who had bonded with Sunfire in Nevada, spoke up. "They're destroyers. They travel from system to system, wiping out developing civilizations and harvesting resources. They've been enemies of the progenitors for millions of years." Dr. William Carter, who had been studying the seed artifact, added his findings. "The genetic markers in the speakers match patterns we found encoded in the seed. This isn't coincidence. Humanity was guided along an evolutionary path that would eventually produce compatible partners for the Guardians." "So we're what? Co-pilots?" asked Frank. "More than that," said Dr. Samantha Green. "The Guardians need our creativity, our adaptability. They have the power, but we direct it. Together, we're more effective than either species alone." Kate turned to a large screen showing the approaching Vrakther fleet, They'll be here in less than 48 hours. How do we prepare? Through their mental links, the speakers consulted with their guardian partners. The dragons had been designed with specific abilities to counter Vrekthur technology. Some could generate energy fields that disrupted alien weapons. Others could manipulate gravity or create localized electromagnetic pulses. Sunfire says we need to bond more deeply with our guardians, Emma explained. Right now, we're just talking to each other. But we can merge our minds completely, become one fighting unit. Is that safe? Kate asked, concerned. Necessary, Emma replied simply. Around the world, speakers began the bonding process with their guardian partners. It was disorienting at first, human minds struggling to comprehend the vast awareness of creatures who had existed for millions of years. Frank stood beside Lake Michigan, placing his hand on deep-water scales. The Guardian's mind opened fully to him, and Frank gasped as ancient memories flooded his consciousness. He saw stars being born, worlds being seeded with life, great battles between Guardians and Vrekthur ships in the distant past. Most importantly, he understood how to fight them. At Site 7, scientists worked frantically to understand the technology contained within the seed. With guidance from the Guardians through their speakers, they realized it wasn't just a communication device or alarm system. It contained specifications for weapons that could penetrate Vrekthur defenses. The progenitors left us everything we need, Dr. Carter explained to General Bishop. But they expected us to be more advanced when this day came. We need to adapt their designs to our current technology level. Engineers and scientists from around the world were brought together in a desperate race against time. The Guardians, through their human partners, provided insights that accelerated human understanding by centuries within days. In orbit, the International Space Station was converted into a command center. Astronauts worked alongside military personnel to prepare for the coming battle. New weapon systems, based on progenitor designs, were hastily assembled. Linda Shun, bonded with her mountain guardian, discovered she could project her consciousness through her partner's eyes. This allowed her to see energy patterns invisible to normal human perception. The Vrekthur ships have weak points, she reported, specific areas where their shielding fluctuates. Maria Oliveira and her feathered Serpent Guardian practiced aerial maneuvers over the Atlantic. Through their bond, Maria could direct the Guardian's movements with incredible precision. Flying at speeds that would kill an unprotected human, Hassan Ali and his Desert Guardian tested their ability to generate focused energy beams that could potentially penetrate Vrekthur hull materials. As the alien fleet drew closer, humanity prepared for battle alongside their ancient protectors. News of the dragons spread worldwide, causing both fear and hope among populations. Religious leaders debated the theological implications. Scientists struggled to understand creatures that defied conventional biology. Frank Rivera stood on a beach, watching deep water glide through the water. In 2 days, they would be fighting for Earth's survival against an enemy that had destroyed countless civilizations across the galaxy. Are we ready? He asked through their mental link. Deepwater's response came not as words but as feeling, determination, resolve, and something unexpected, pride. The Guardian was proud of humanity's quick adaptation, their willingness to fight alongside creatures from Legion. Frank smiled. Then let's show these Vrekthur what happens when they mess with a protected world. Across Earth, 317 Guardians and their human partners prepared for war. The dragons of Earth had awakened, and through their human connections, they were stronger than ever before. The Vrekthur were coming, expecting to find an isolated, primitive world ready for harvest. What they would find instead was an alliance millions of years in the making, finally activated Earth's dragons. And their human partners stood ready to defend their home. The Vrekthur fleet appeared in Earth orbit exactly 2 weeks after their first attacks on the colonies. 67 massive warships arranged themselves in attack formation around the planet. Their black hulls absorbed sunlight, making them look like holes cut in the fabric of space itself. From the converted command center on the International Space Station, General Kate Bishop watched the enemy deployment. Earth's conventional defenses seemed pitiful compared to the alien armada, but humanity was no longer depending on conventional weapons alone. All Guardian teams report in, she ordered, around the world. Speakers connected with their dragon partners responded. Each Guardian had been assigned to protect specific regions, with overlapping coverage to ensure no area remained vulnerable. Pacific. Division ready, reported Mary Rodriguez, bonded with a sapphire-colored Guardian she called Azure. Eurasian Division standing by, came the voice of Hassan Ali with his Desert Guardian. North American Division in position, Frank Rivera confirmed. His consciousness partially merged with Deepwater. Young Emma Harris, despite her age, had shown such strong connection with Sunfire that she had been appointed as coordinator for the Guardian forces. Through Sunfire, she could maintain contact with all Guardians simultaneously. The Vrakther are preparing to launch fighters, Emma announced, her voice strangely adult as Sunfire's consciousness flowed through her. First wave targeting military installations in North America, Europe, and East Asia. On screens around the command center, satellite imagery showed bay doors opening on the undersides of the Vrakther ships. Smaller craft, each the size of a passenger jet, poured out by the hundreds. All Guardians, intercept Protocol Alpha, Kate ordered. Protect the population centers at all costs. What followed defied all human understanding of physics and biology. The Guardians did not simply fly to meet the enemy, they shifted through dimensional boundaries, appearing and disappearing around the alien vessels. Their movements were impossible to track with conventional sensors. Frank and Deepwater rose from Lake Michigan in a column of water that turned to steam around them. Their minds fully merged now, they were neither fully human nor fully Guardian. But something new. Frank could feel the power flowing through Deepwater's massive body, the ancient genetic programming that made the Guardian a perfect weapon against the Vrakther they teleported. There was no other word for it, directly into the path of alien fighters heading toward Chicago. Deepwater opened his massive jaws and released not fire, but a concentrated stream of energy that Frank somehow understood was targeted antimatter. The lead fighters disintegrated on contact. Others veered away, but Deepwater was faster, more agile than his size suggested possible. Frank directed their movements through the shared consciousness, anticipating enemy maneuvers before they happened. Similar scenes played out around the world. In Beijing, Linda Chen and her Mountain Guardian created localized gravity wells that crushed Vrakther ships like tin cans. Over Moscow, another Guardian pair generated electromagnetic pulses that disabled alien weapon systems. The Vrakther responded with escalating force. The larger warships began orbital bombardment, targeting areas where Guardians had emerged. Energy beams powerful enough to vaporize cities struck the Earth's surface, but where these beams hit, Guardians were already waiting, absorbing the energy through their scales and redirecting it back at the attackers. They never expected us to have kept the Guardians, Mary Rodriguez explained to military commanders as Azure engaged 3 enemy ships simultaneously. This was supposed to be a simple extermination mission for them. They're panicking now. The first hour of battle reached a stalemate. The Guardians prevented major damage to Earth cities, but lacked the ability to take the fight directly to the main Vrakther fleet in high orbit. At Site 7, Dr. William Carter and his team worked frantically to complete their adaptation of progenitor weapon designs. The seed had contained plans for devices that could disrupt the dimensional technology that made Vrakther ships so powerful. "We need more time," Carter told General Bishop over a secure channel. "The prototypes are ready, but we need to mass produce them. How much time?" Kate asked, watching as another wave of fighters descended toward Earth. 12 hours minimum. "Maybe 24 to have enough to make a difference?" Kate nodded grimly. "I'll tell the Guardian teams to hold position and focus on defense. Number. Offensive operations until your weapons are ready." The battle settled into a grinding war of attrition. The Guardians were tireless, but their human partners felt the strain of the mental connection. Some speakers collapsed from the effort, forcing their Guardians to retreat temporarily while their humans recovered. Emma Harris coordinated it all from a secure bunker in Nevada. her young mind somehow able to handle the enormous mental load better than most adults. Through Sunfire, she maintained communication between all Guardian pairs, shifting resources to where they were most needed. "The Vrekthur commander is calling for reinforcements," she reported suddenly. "I can feel the signal they're sending." This alarmed the military leaders. "How long until these reinforcements arrive?" Kate asked. "Days, maybe weeks," Emma replied after consulting with Sunfire. "But they're also changing tactics. They're targeting our speakers now?" This new strategy became immediately apparent as Vrekthur fighters began ignoring military targets in favor of hunting down the human partners bonded to Guardians. Precision strikes hit speaker locations, forcing Guardians to choose between offensive operations and protecting their vulnerable human counterparts. Frank and Deepwater narrowly avoided such an attack, teleporting away from their position above Lake Michigan seconds before energy beams lashed the area. Through their bond, Frank sensed Deepwater's fury at this cowardly tactic. "We need to change our approach," Frank told General Bishop. "The Guardians can't fight effectively while constantly protecting us." Dr. Samantha Green, who had been studying the bonding process between humans and Guardians, offered a solution. What if the speakers were physically inside their Guardians? Many of the larger dragons have internal chambers that could safely house a human. This idea spread quickly among the Guardian teams. Mary Rodriguez was the first to attempt it, climbing into a specialized chamber within Azure's chest cavity. Protected by the Guardian's nearly indestructible scales, Mary could maintain their bond without being vulnerable to direct attack. Other Speaker-Guardian pairs followed suit. The results were immediate and dramatic. Freed from protecting their external human partners, the Guardians moved with new aggression against the Vrekthur forces. Frank nestled inside a chamber within Deepwater that seemed designed specifically for a human occupant. Warm, fluid-filled membranes cushioned him while still allowing him to breathe. The mental connection with Deepwater strengthened, giving them even greater coordination. "All Guardian teams, new objective," came Kate's voice through their communication systems. "Hold the line for 18 more hours. Dr. Carter's team is preparing weapons that can end this." For the next day, Earth's Guardians and their human partners fought with unmatched determination. Though outnumbered and facing superior technology, they had one crucial advantage: the Vrekthur had never expected to face Guardians on a world they thought was unprotected. As the battle raged above, humanity below watched the skies with a mixture of fear and hope. Strange lights flashed in the atmosphere. Occasional glimpses of massive scaled bodies moving faster than seemed possible. The future of their species hung in the balance, and in laboratories around the world, scientists worked frantically to build weapons that could bring this war to a decisive end. The final confrontation was coming, and Earth's dragons and the human partners would be ready. 20 hours into the battle, Earth's defenders received the news they had been waiting for. Dr. William Carter's team had completed the first batch of weapons based on progenitor designs. These devices, called phase disruptors, could interfere with the dimensional technology that made Vrekthur ships so difficult to damage. Admiral Susan Taylor had been appointed to coordinate the counteroffensive. A veteran naval commander, she now found herself leading the strangest fleet in human history. Combination of conventional spacecraft and ancient Guardians with their human partners. "The plan is simple," she explained to the gathered forces. "The Guardians will deliver our Special Forces teams carrying the phase disruptors to the main Vrekthur vessels. Once the disruptors are activated, their shields will fail, and our conventional weapons can do damage." The remaining Vrekthur forces had pulled back to a defensive position near Jupiter. It was clear they were regrouping, waiting for reinforcements. This gave Earth forces a narrow window to strike. Frank Rivera, still merged with Deepwater inside the Guardian's protective chamber, felt both fear and determination. What they were attempting had never been done before: a coordinated assault against a technologically superior enemy, relying on weapons that had only been tested in laboratories. "All Guardian teams move to launch positions," Susan ordered. Around the world, Guardians rose into the sky. Some, like Deepwater, emerged from oceans in columns of spray. Others launched from mountain peaks or forests. All carried either human, special forces teams or enhanced weapon systems. Built to their specifications, Mary Rodriguez and Azure led the first attack wing. Through their mental link, Mary directed precise strikes against the Vreighther flagship. "Remember, we need to hit all targets simultaneously," she reminded the other teams. "If they adapt to the phase disruptors, we lose our advantage." The journey to Jupiter took mere minutes for the Guardians, who moved through space in ways that defied conventional physics. Frank experienced the strange sensation of folded space as Deepwater teleported from Earth orbit to the gas giant in 3 jumps. The sight that greeted them was both beautiful and terrifying. Jupiter's massive form provided a backdrop for the assembled Vreighther fleet. 43 warships remained, their black hulls arranged in a defensive sphere. "All teams in position," Susan confirmed from the command ship following behind at conventional speed. "Commence Operation Thunderstrike on my mark." Frank felt Deepwater's anticipation building. The Guardian had waited millions of years for this moment, the chance to fulfill its purpose and protect its adopted world. "Mark!" Susan's voice rang through the communication systems. 300 Guardians materialized simultaneously around the Vreighther fleet. Special Forces teams deployed from within Guardian chambers, magnetic boots securing them to the alien hulls as they placed phase disruptors at key points. The Vreighther responded immediately, energy weapons firing in all directions. But the Guardians were too fast, teleporting away the instant their teams had deployed their packages. "Phase disruptors active in 10 seconds, reported a Special Forces commander. "All teams, clear the target zone." Frank and Deepwater retreated to a safe distance alongside the other Guardian pairs. What happened next exceeded even their expectations. The phase disruptors activated in perfect synchronization. A wave of energy, invisible to normal sight but glowing like beacons to the Guardians' perception, washed over the Vreighther fleet. Their dimensional shields flickered and failed, leaving their hulls exposed. "All conventional forces, weapons free," Susan ordered. Earth's military vessels, which had been positioned at the edge of the Jupiter system, launched their missiles. Railguns fired projectiles at significant percentages of light speed. Laser systems targeted vulnerable points on the now exposed Vreighther ships. For the first time since the conflict began, the aliens experienced what it was like to be on the defensive end of overwhelming force. Frank and Deepwater rejoined the battle, targeting engine systems on a Vreighther cruiser. Without their dimensional shields, the aliens seemed almost vulnerable. Their technology suddenly less magical and more comprehensible. Through the Guardian network, Emma Harris coordinated the assault from Earth. Despite her youth, she had proven to be the most capable at managing the complex mental connections between all Guardian pairs. "The Vreighther commander is hailing us," she reported suddenly. "They want to communicate." This was unprecedented. Until now, the aliens had shown no interest in dialogue with the species they intended to exterminate. Admiral Susan Taylor considered the request. "Put them through on a secure channel." The face that appeared on communication screens across the human fleet was unsettling, vaguely insectoid with compound eyes and mandibles that clicked as it spoke. Its words were translated through the Guardians, who somehow understood the alien language. "How did primitives like you awaken the Guardians ahead of your evolutionary schedule?" the Vreighther commander demanded. "This world was marked for harvest, not protection." "We didn't awaken them," Susan responded calmly. "They've always been with us. In our myths, our legends, our collective memory. We just didn't understand until..." Now, the alien's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "The progenitors are long gone. Their protection network was supposed to have failed millennia ago." "Evidently not," Susan replied. "Now you have a choice. Retreat and inform your empire that Earth is protected, or continue this fight and face destruction." The Vreighther commander seemed to consider this. Through their mental link, Frank could sense Deepwater's skepticism. The Guardian knew from ancient memory that the Vreighther rarely retreated. "You have won this engagement," the alien finally conceded. But the war is far from over. We will return with forces that can overcome even the Guardians. With that threat, the remaining Vector vessels began to move away from Jupiter, creating distance before activating their faster-than-light drives. Within minutes, they had vanished from the solar system. Should we pursue? Mary Rodriguez asked through Azure. Admiral Taylor shook her head. Let them go. Let them carry the message back to their empire. Earth is no longer an easy target. The return to Earth was triumphant but cautious. Everyone understood that this was just the first battle in what would likely be a long conflict. The Vector would return, better prepared to face Guardians. In the aftermath, humanity faced a transformed understanding of their place in the universe. The Guardians, no longer needed for immediate defense, established permanent bonds with their human speakers and began sharing the accumulated knowledge. Of the PROGENITORs. Colonial reconstruction began, with Guardians accompanying human settlers to secure these outposts against future threats. Research outposts studied the ancient technology, advancing human capabilities by centuries within months. Frank Rivera stood with Deepwater on a beach, watching the sunset. Their minds were still connected, though less completely than during battle. Do you think they'll come back soon? He asked. Deepwater's response came as images and feelings rather than words. The Guardian showed Frank distant stars, other worlds where similar battles had been fought. The Vector were persistent, but they were also calculating. They would not return until they believed they could win. So we have time, Frank said. Allowed time to prepare. Admiral Taylor approached them, having landed a helicopter nearby. The President wants to establish a permanent Guardian defense force, she informed Frank. With you and the other speakers as its core, will you accept? Frank glanced at Deepwater, feeling the Guardians' approval through their bond. Yes, he replied. This is just the beginning, isn't it? Susan nodded gravely. The beginning of a new chapter for humanity. We're no longer alone in the universe, for better or worse. As they spoke, young Emma Harris was receiving different news through her connection with Sunfire. The Guardian had detected faint signals from beyond the solar system, other Guardians on distant worlds. Awakening in response to Earth's call, humanity wouldn't face the coming challenges alone. The dragons of Earth had awakened, and through their human connections they were stronger than ever before. The Vector had expected to find an isolated, primitive world ready for harvest. What they found instead was the beginning of a new cosmic alliance, millions of years in the making, finally taking its place among the stars.